Okay, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, very, very warm afternoon to you, wherever you're joining from. Good evening. Thank you for joining the SPE Abuja April edition of our monthly technical session. Confirm you can hear me, please. Okay, confirm you can hear me, please.
Can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for joining our event and confirming you can hear. My name is Ofo Fonono. My pleasure to serve as your anchor for today. And so for us to kickstart, I would like to kindly appeal that you drop the chat box. So in our events like this, we like our chat box very engaging. We like our chat box bubbling with messages, key takeaways from the session. So this is how we start it. What you can do for me and for our lecturer and for our moderator is to go to the chat box and tell us which part of Nigeria, which part of Africa you are joining us from. Just do that, and so we can know and welcome you properly. Just go to the chat box. Let's know which part of Nigeria, which part of Africa you are joining us from. And while at that, I would like us to kindly understand that the other event is on the screen. This event is built to last for about an hour and 30 minutes. After this arrival of participants, we'll have a safety brief, and then I'll introduce our speakers and our distinguished leaders on the group call. Then we'll have a welcome remarks by the section chief of SP Abuja section, where we switch gears to the moderator bringing in the speaker. The speaker will speak for about 40 minutes, where you have 15 minutes to ask your questions. Please, at that time when he's speaking, drop your questions on the chat box. We're making it already engaging already. And then we have a closing remark by the program's chairman of SPE Abuja. It's going to be very, very brief. It's going to be very, very intellectual and engaging. We are speaking about gas sales agreements today. So if you're in the industry, you work with gas, this is for you. Please share the link to all of your colleagues in your committee, in your at work. Just share the link so that we can have many people learn as much as possible. A quick safety brief, please. For events like this, we are very particular about safety. We kindly appeal that you mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Raise your hands if you want to speak. Use the chat box, please. Comments, questions. Our moderator will take note of all of them and respond to all of your chat box. We also ask that you ensure you can hear the fire alarm wherever you are. If you're driving home from work, connect to the Bluetooth on your car and drive home without using your phone. Be alert and aware of your environment and stay safe. Ladies and gentlemen, let's head over to the chat box and see the people on call. Yes, we can see amazing name is Liamat Adewumi. The first message we had is from Lagos. Welcome is Liamat Adewumi. Emmanuel Oboye is from Abuja. Welcome, Emmanuel, to the call. Samson Omolabi, thank you so much. Joining from Houston in Texas. How is the US today? Welcome, 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 Samson. Nazifa Bashir, yeah, joining from Kanu, amazing. Thank you for joining. Benjamin Ajayi, our speaker for today. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting to speak today. Doctor, he said he's joining from Lagos. Of course, Victor Oguntwese says he's joining from Ekiti State. Amazing. This is why we love SPE. We have people from all around Nigeria connecting just to speak technical information for the advancement of oil and gas production in Nigeria. Benjamin joining from Lagos. Modupe Adeni from Lagos. We have Imo from Port Harcourt. Austin from Jos Plateau State. Rao, of course, Yo, YLW from Ghana. Wow. Akwaba, welcome to our call today, Yo. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have all of you join us on the call today from all parts of Nigeria. We say welcome, welcome, welcome. Of course, we have 40 people on the call and we expect more. Like I said earlier on, we have about 90 people register for this MTM, making us understand that yes, this topic is quite interesting and engaging for our professionals. I'm going to continue the event by recognizing some of our Abuja leaders we have on the call. And when I recognize them, I'd like them to kindly unmute their mic and say a word or two to the house. Of course, on the call is the first man that joined the call today, the leader of SPE Abuja section. When he became section chair, he said one thing: Abuja will be known to have a culture of excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, engineer Ikechukwu Okafor, PhD. A warm afternoon or evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on the call, sir.
Thank you, Akwan. Good evening, everyone. For joining. Good evening, Benjamin, and good evening to good friend of the changing. Good to have you in here. Thank you.
Pleased to have you on the call, sir. Your Excellencies, you also have on the call the membership chairman for SPE Abuja. Of course, a pleasure to have Dr. Romeo Golo on the call. Welcome, membership chair. Pleasure to have you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Good evening.
Yes, on the call also is the secretary of the section, Abdurafi Egbeyemi. Welcome, Abdurafi, on the call. Nice to have you on the call, sir.
Thank you, Apan. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to an exciting event. Thank you.
Yeah, on the call too, ladies and gentlemen, is our publicity chair, the man that makes everything happens when it comes to making noise in Abuja section. Odafi Atebe. Welcome, sir. Pleasure to have you on the call, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ofofonono Akwan. Good evening, everyone, and you're welcome.
Yes, so we have several board members. Time may not permit me to call them one after the other. We say welcome to all of our board members, all our senior members on the call. Welcome. We like to most especially recognize the presence of the lead strategy and decision support analyst, the speaker for today, who will take center stage for 40 minutes to drill us on gas sales agreement. Benjamin Oluwatobi Ajayi, Dr. PhD. A warm evening to you, sir. Confirm you can hear me, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, and good evening to everyone. Good to be here this evening. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting to share your wealth of knowledge in SPE Abuja section. Of course, the moderator for today from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Dr. Joseph Echendu. A very warm evening to you, sir. Moderator, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, all. Thank you, Akwan. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. Welcome all of our distinguished senior members, professionals from all parts of Nigeria that have joined the call. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are speaking gas sales agreement. We are speaking successful gas transactions. Today we are speaking anything that has to do with the gas to power, industrial supply, and of course, everything that can make agreements work when it comes to gas. And of course, to start the event, we'd like to have our chairman to give a welcome address. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome engineer Ikechukwu Okafor for his remark. Over to you, section chair, for your remarks, sir.
Sometimes you can hear me.
Loud and clear, Section Chair.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I want to put on my video. But just give me a moment, please.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, Section Chair just wants a few moments and would have his remark. For today's event, our speaker would be focusing on gas sales agreements, which are fundamental to the commercialization and the monitoring of natural gas resources, serving as the backbone of industry supply and exports projects. Today's technical session provides a comprehensive exploration of agreements, focusing on the critical commercial, legal, and fiscal elements that shape successful gas transactions. Of course, today's session would unpack key commercial structures, including pricing mechanisms, volume commitments, take or pay obligations, and risk allocation between buyers and sellers. It also examines the legal framework underpinning gas sales agreements, such as contract enforceability, dispute resolution mechanisms, regulatory compliance, and alignment with national gas policies. In addition, our discussion today will highlight fiscal considerations, including taxation, royalties, and currency risk, and the impact of government policies on project bankability. Ladies and gentlemen, to start the session, please help me welcome our Section Chair once again, Engineer Ikechi Okafor, PhD, for his remark. Over to you, Section Chair.
Okay, thank you, Apan. Hear me? So good evening, everybody. It's good to give the opening remark on this edition MTN for April. And I thought that topic was quite interesting, something to look forward to. So I'll go ahead to give a quick opening remark to Chairman of the section. My dear distinguished colleague, FP members, when students, professional members, senior colleagues, senior FP members, board. We're here today to speak about something that's quite large-scale agreement, and then things have come at a better time, because it is at a time where we need to look at the commercial, the legal, and the fiscal considerations. Because it takes time that the timely and the extension, it will give us a time to reflect on how we progress conversation around that conversation, value ambition. At FP Abuja, we remain committed to building a core for excellence, creating platforms for our members to learn, to grow, and to empower our young professionals and prepare our students for the future. On today's MTM, the multi-technology, I would like to appreciate our speaker, Dr. Benjamin Oluwatoja, who is the lead strategy and thank you for coming to Navigate to share your expertise with us. And so I'm moderator, who is my friend and brother, Dr. Joseph Echengu, of the NPRC. Thank you, because I know it's difficult to moderating this session. To every member who has taken time to join this call, or taking time out of a very busy schedule to join this call, I want to say thank you, and I appreciate your continued commitment to learning. With the young professional, it is where it happens. SPE is committed, FPE is committed to delivering value to the technical knowledge sharing in and around the oil and gas industry. We are also saying, let us engage actively and make the most of the session. Thank you and welcome. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Section Chair. Can we give our Section Chair some very amazing virtual applause? Please, let's get our chat box as engaging as possible. Give our Section Chair some virtual applause. You heard him say that, of course, this theme for today is timely as essential as we all deepen our understanding of the frameworks that drive gas commercialization and, of course, create value for the Nigerian state. So, yes, you're welcome once again. Thank you so much, Section Chair, for that amazing welcome remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we switch gears immediately to introducing the moderator for today. Of course, the moderator will take center stage to manage the entire process for the next few minutes or hours, you may call it. Of course, he is a very close friend of the section chair, like you heard on the welcome remarks, and he is a 2018 SPE Management and Information Award African Region recipient. Currently, he works with the Regulatory Authority in Nigeria. Previously, he was the Assistant Director at the International Institute for Petroleum Energy Law and Policy, and of course, a research fellow with the Chirota and Emmanuel Igboga Distinguished Professor at the Emerald Energy Institute. He has over 20 years of oil and gas experience in practice and research. His interest is in field development, planning, petroleum energy, economics modeling, life cycle project design and analysis, policy and strategy research, petroleum physical systems design, and scholastic analysis. He has authored and co-authored more than 20 technical papers and holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from the University of Lagos, a master's degree in petroleum engineering from the African University of Science and Technology, and of course a PhD in petroleum engineering with specialty in petroleum economics from the World Bank African Center of Excellence at the University of Port Harcourt. He's a member of SPE and the technical editor of the SPE Journal of Economics and Management, served as the alternate chairman of the SPE 119 Students Chapter, and has served as a member of SPE Soft Skills Committee. He's a recipient of the 2016 SPE Africa Regional Paper Contest PhD category. He is a recipient of the 2018 Service Award for the Nigerian Institution of Energy Economics, NAEE. He is amazing profile. He is a consultant and part of the ad hoc fiscal modeling team to the technical team of the Federal Legislators of Nigeria. He facilitates field development plans and petroleum economics workshops on behalf of Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, and of course, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Joseph Echendu of the NUPLC as Tech Center Stage as moderator for today. Over to you, our moderator, sir.
Thank you very much, Akpan. I appreciate the value you just read. Anyway, please, the focus for today is on the speaker. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of all, you are highly welcome to today's section of our monthly technical meeting of the SP Abuja region. It's my pleasure to be here today as the moderator. Without much ado, because I anticipate that we're going to be having a very interactive sections, trying to speak on gas this agreement. What are the legal requirements that are needed, the commercial content, and fiscal consideration. And it's of no doubt to know that our speaker today, Benjamin Oluwatobi Ajayi, doctor, who happens to be with our Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. It's no other mean person to take this. So Benjamin Oluwatobi, as for those of us who do not know, is an energy professional with over 14 years of experience across strategy, commercial analysis, project development, and asset management in the Nigerian oil and gas sector. He serves as a lead strategy and decision support analyst, where he superintends economic decision support for commercial and business development negotiation and coordinates the economic evaluation of upstream opportunities using asset and portfolio valuation techniques. His work spans partnership assessment, third-party proposal review, and value optimization across partnership, across the oil and gas assets. He holds a degree in mechanical and petroleum engineering and a PhD in energy economics, focused on hybrid energy systems for remote communities, and an MBA also. Benjamin is an active member of the SP here and a certified PMP, and a regular conference speaker and writer on energy economics and transition. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Oluwatobi Ajayi Benjamin as he takes up the stage to give us his exciting exposé on understanding gas sales agreements, the key commercial, legal, and fiscal considerations. Welcome on board, Dr. Ben.
Thank you so much, sir. And it's a great opportunity to be here sharing thoughts on gas sales agreement. And thanks to the leadership of SB Abuja for this great opportunity. And I trust that the listeners will learn one or two things about gas sales agreements during this discussion that we're going to be having for the next between 30 and 40 minutes. So basically, gas sales agreements, and what comes to mind, one will be wondering why an agreement when you're dealing with gas. I think I would like to start with the opening that unlike other resources like maybe oil, for gas, you can't produce gas. The focus of this discussion will be from upstream end. I understand even in the midstream, there's still some level of gas agreement from one supplier to another. But the major focus of this agreement will be how we monetize gas from the upstream. When we say upstream, maybe for people that are not familiar with the different streams and the value chain of the oil and gas, we have three streams. We have the upstream, we have the midstream, and we have the downstream. So the upstream part is the stream that focuses on the exploration and production of the oil and gas from the reservoir, which is the underground, until it gets to the surface. The moment it gets to the surface, we move away from the upstream and then goes to midstream, where transportation takes place. Transportation, storage, and the rest takes place in the midstream. And then downstream is where some processing, refining, and all that takes place before it gets to the end user. So the end user and all those small processes and some of the things that happens at the other hand, they refer that level to as the downstream. But the focus today will be how do we monetize gas from the upstreams level to the midstream and maybe even to the downstream. Basically, for gas, since you can't produce gas and keep in a storage, there has to be a market for it. So this is very, very critical to monetizing and commercializing gas value, particularly in an environment like us in Nigeria. Previously, the focus on petroleum industry was majorly on oil, and if you are in discussions or gas agreement, they will tell you that gas is incidental. And in this regard, even till now, we only have, most of the gas that has been produced in Nigeria are actually associated gas. And before, there were now laws, different arrangement to really monetize gas. Most of those volumes were being flared. Most of them, even till now, there's still some level of flaring. However, thanks to the regulator and all the players in the industry, that we're already seeing some value being creamed from gas monetization, and there has been a level of development around reducing flare. There are even a lot of penalties. I think now currently, if you flare gas, I think you have to pay about $3.5 per score of gas that you flare. So it's no longer cheap. I mean, 1,000 score, $3.5. I mean, dollar per 1,000 score of gas that you flare. So it's no longer cheap to flare gas. So that's just saying that there has been a lot of effort to really monetize and make money out of gas. And interestingly, if you listen to a lot of researchers, they will tell you that Nigeria is a gas province with some oil pockets in it. However, currently, what we are doing majorly around now, it's majorly focuses has been on oil, but the transition is already ongoing now, where we're already having some development that focuses on majorly gas. But as it stands today, most of the production are still focused on associated gas, which comes with oil. So you don't need to do extra work. As you produce the gas, as you produce the oil, the gas comes with the oil, and that's what is called associated gas. But there's the other kind of reservoir where you have gas predominantly. That's the one they call non-associated gas. And that level of development also focus is going to that level right now. However, most of what is currently produced in Nigeria are majorly associated gas. Those are the ones that comes with oil, and some projects are ongoing, some reviews are ongoing, some production have already started in some non-associated gas, but they are not as much as we have in the associated gas space. And if you follow discussions on this, one of the things that has been around this has been the commercial that supports the development of the gas has not been there before. And even for people that are familiar with the production sharing contract that we had before, it's been majorly focused on gas. I mean, focused on oil. It's just recently, and even if you look at the PIA, before PIA, when you have the leases or licenses in the oil and gas space, I mean, when I talk about the leases or licenses, it's more like the legal instrument with which all these oil and gas operators, I mean, the investors, through which the license they get to go and maybe explore for oil and produce them. You could realize that prior to PIA, it was referred to as oil mining lease or oil petroleum license because the focus was on oil. But with PIA now, you don't hear oil mining lease or oil prospecting license. What you hear now, what you see now is majorly petroleum mining lease or petroleum prospecting license, because the focus is now has gone beyond oil. We have discovered that we have a huge resource of gas in country and we need to monetize it. So the focus now is not just on oil, it's also both on oil and gas. And that's one of the backgrounds that we just want to bring up here. And the more understanding, the understanding around this, fine, this time is limited for us to be able to do justice to the full suite of a gas sale agreement. So we'll just be looking at this under this outline, introduction and evolution of gas sales agreement. What are the different types of gas agreements that we have? And we take a quick look at some key terms in a gas contract and then the benefit of having a gas contract. So briefly, gas sales agreement provides the definitive commercial and legal framework to monetize gas, because there has to be a form of understanding between the two parties. And when you have an agreement, it has to be parties involved. You have a seller in this regard and you have a buyer. So there needs to be this agreement. GSA kind of places a commercial and legal framework, because nobody wants to do any business without making profit. So that speaks to the commercial. You want to make money, and that comes around with your payment. How do I get paid? And what's the price? How is the guys going to be priced? How do we get value in this regard? And also, there has to be some legal framework to underpin it, because if there are no laws, people can do anything in business and not fulfill their end bargain in this regard. And that's why in a contract, in every contract, there are what we call rights and obligations. So rights are what are due to you if you do your own part in an agreement. These are things that comes to you, and obligations are the things you need to do. So it's no free. Even they say in Freetown, things are not free there. So you have to, there are obligations and there are rights. So for a seller, for a seller that is selling the gas, is giving out value, must have invested money. Maybe I should do a quick one. Ordinarily, to drill a well, it takes millions of dollars to drill a well, and particularly some of our gas resource are not even on the land. Some of them are even offshore. Maybe some of the NAG resource that we might be looking at, maybe deep offshore, or even on land. It takes a lot of money to drill a well, and after the person has done a lot of investment to even go into that space, he needs to be assured that the value has invested, he needs to get some value from it by having a buyer that is going to be able to pay the amount of money that is going to offset whatever investment such an investor has in place to really ensure that that resource is being produced and taken to the market or gets it to the buyer. So this agreement kind of provides the terms that shows the relationship, the rights and the obligation between the two parties, and that protects the right and obligation of both the buyer and the seller, because the seller too has his own obligations, though there are risks attached to it. We all know that in every business or any transaction, there are risks attached to it. However, agreement is being in place to ensure that the risks are being managed, though some risks cannot be taken out entirely. Maybe in the body of this discussion, when we go forward, we hear something like force majeure, things that are actually beyond the control of both parties. So there has to be some certain risk measure that has to be in place in a situation whereby somebody is not able to fulfill his own end of bargain and all that. So we'll just be looking briefly at what is it that we look at. I mean, a gas sales agreement. We have seen that there is a buyer and there's a seller. So the agreement is the legal document that it relates how both of them will interact in this commercial structure. So that's just basically what the GSA is about. And just a quick one on how the evolution of commercial, how GSAs have evolved over the years. Previously, in the beginning, maybe in the US, it was just a simple agreement, nothing too serious about GSAs. It was between the producers and some gas pipeline around the state, and then there wasn't so much, just get the gas to the pipeline and sell it. So the agreements were not like long-term, because the focus then was not actually gas. They just needed to get the gas off to allow them process their crude and sell their crude. But over time, as things evolve, we can see take or pay came in. We're going to be discussing take or pay provision and force majeure, which I mentioned earlier on. Maybe I should just mention a little about take or pay. Take or pay is more like a guarantee for the seller that no matter what happens, either you take the gas or you don't take it, I'm getting some money because I've invested money. So I need to be sure that resources are coming in to offset the huge investment that I've made to develop such volume of gas. And as I mentioned earlier on, upstream is highly capital intensive. We talk about millions of dollars. So if someone has invested that kind of money, wants to be assured that returns are sure. And don't forget that some of these monies is not people go to the bank to borrow them. So, and even some financiers, they need to see your GSAs. They want to see the end-to-end to be sure how you're going to commercialize the gas resource that you're taking from them before they even give you the funding. So gas sales agreement is very, very critical. So, and by the time it gets to 1980s, we now see dispute resolution mechanism. And in every business that involves money, everybody wants to protect his own end of value. And that's why dispute will come in. The volume I gave you is not the volume recorded at your own end and all that. So some of these things are being in place in the agreement. How do we handle it when there is disagreement between two parties on the volume you took, on whatever discussions that have to do with the interaction on the agreement in the operationalization? Sometimes when agreements are being discussed, somebody will tell you, is my guy, is a straightforward person, so we don't need to document anything. No. Over the years, experience has shown that in every business, there needs to be some guidelines or guide rails that determines how interactions are being managed in an agreement or in a relationship. So a lot of things have changed. Now we want LNG sales and purchase agreement, and a lot of complexity are being introduced into what was previously a simple document due to evolution of business and how things have progressed. So shortly, we'll just be taking a quick look at two structure of agreement. As relates to upstream gas agreements, gas sales agreement. The first one is the depletion contract, and the second one is supply contract. The depletion contract simply speaks to a situation whereby a reservoir or a resource is being dedicated to a particular buyer. This depletion contract speaks to a situation where a production from a particular field or a reservoir is dedicated to a particular market or a particular off-taker. Gas have been produced from reservoir. Reservoir is the structure under the ground where the oil and gas resource are being naturally, through some processes which we'll not be looking at today, where those things over the years are being formed. The hydrocarbon is being formed underground. So in the reservoir, that's where they are stored. Permit me to use the word. I know there are a lot of experts in the room that might have a better term to describe that, but that's where they are being produced from. So this kind of contract, so the volume that is coming from that contract, let's say there's a reservoir called ABC. Reservoir ABC, the volume of gas that is being produced from that reservoir ABC is being taken by a man called Mr. IK. So all the resource from that one is coming to Mr. IK. So Mr. IK already has an idea of where the volume of gas he is buying is coming from. It's coming from a particular reserve. So, and for this, because the resource that is coming there, and we all know that the resource there are non-renewable. So over time, it decreases and it depletes. So as you produce, and for experts in the field, they know there's a ramp up period when in a production profile, you have a time that the production grows to a certain point and then it gets to a peak and then it observes what they call a plateau when production kind of normalizes. Let's say it starts from maybe 0 at some point and gets to maybe 50, let's say 50 mm². And at some point, that production now stays at that level per day for that, maybe for some period before it now gets to a decline. So this particular contract is focused on a particular reserve. So this is what they call a depletion contract. So in this kind of depletion contract, you don't expect the same volume at the peak to continue forever. No, because at some point, as you are producing from the reservoir, the volume keeps reducing. And at some point, so the volume you are expected, we're still going to get to the point where we talk about contract annual or daily contract volume or daily contract quantity. So in an agreement, you have what you expect per day, and some of the downstream facility are being designed with the understanding that, okay, every day I'm getting, let's say 50 mm² of gas. And when I say mm², million standard cubic feet of gas. So that's the unit they use to measure gas. So you are sure that, okay, you are getting this particular volume. But for a depletion contract, you are aware that over time, the volume that is being produced from that reserve will decrease with time because the reservoir is not renewable. The resource is not renewable because as you are producing, it keeps reducing to the point that you now get to the point you get to decline and all that. So this is ideal for small to medium feeds because for some large feeds, an off-taker might not be able to take it. So generally, the cost is being lowered because it's more like you're in a long-term marriage, and often for you already have a deal that, okay, I'm for you all through till the end of the field cannot produce economically again. But there's another type of contract that is supply contract. For this one, there's no dedicated reservoir. The seller is free to supply gas from any field. All that the supplier needs to do, the seller needs to do is, I get the gas to you at a particular agreed point. There's something they call delivery point. That's the point where the volume you're buying is being delivered to you. So some of the things that are going to be in the agreement is also delivery point, because you need to know where you're getting, at what point am I getting custody transfer? They call it title and risk transfer at the delivery point. So that's the point where the value, the resource and the risk is being exchanged with the off-taker. Off-taker, when you hear me say off-taker, I'm speaking to the buyer, whoever is buying from the seller. And for this one, the contract length can be for a period without no termination, for early termination. Because for this, you could supply from different sources, so you don't necessarily need to bring early termination. But for the depletion contract, the moment the gas cannot be produced economically again, a termination comes in, because you now come to the table, guy, the volume that is coming from here, I can't support it again, so let's end this contract. But for a supply contract, this allows for provision for a long term, as long as the both parties are meeting their obligations, this can continue for a long time, and this could be for a large portfolio or a large hub where you have maybe a lot of gas reserves in that space that is supplying different people at that point. So for this one, this could be a premium because you are not tied down that you're only supplying to one person. You have options in this regard for a supply contract, unlike the depletion contract. So in Niger Delta, generally, most of what we have currently, they are majorly depletion contracts, because this one to ensure stability. For a depletion contract, you ensure stability because you know where your offtake is, and you know when the person is off-taking it. Unlike maybe for supply, things could happen. This guy might have a lot of other off-takers and might choose, maybe particularly now there's war and there's an uptick in the cost and the price of gas and all that. So there's possibility that the person might want to observe and just be like, let me make more money and sell to other off-taker that higher bidder or something. So that's one of the advantages of depletion contract, the stability that you have, unlike what may not always be obtainable for a supply contract. However, there are provisions to protect the buyer in that regard. So we just take a quick look at some of the key terms that guides a gas agreement. So we look at reciters. Reciters basically just speak to the background. I want to speak to the context. You know, they will say devil is in the details. I hope I said it correctly. So you want to have a background. Why are we even having this agreement? What's the basis? It's more like your introduction. Why are we here? What are the things that we have discussed before? What are the things that are going to underpin? What's the context of this agreement? So this provides like a basic background around the purpose of the agreement and the things to expect from both the buyer and the seller. Condition precedent. This is more like the condition that has to be fulfilled before an agreement is effective. Just a brief gist around cost condition precedent. I can sign an agreement with Mr. B today, and the agreement does not become effective today until certain conditions have been fulfilled. Okay, let's say I sign a GSA with someone. Mr. A signs a GSA with Mr. B. Mr. B is supposed to offtake the gas from Mr. A, and they've signed an agreement, but that agreement will not be effective until maybe a pipeline that will deliver the gas, that will take the gas from upstream to the delivery point that is agreed. The delivery point is where the gas is being exchanged with the off-taker. For some, like all those offshore fields, it's from the FPSO. There is a way they connect and transfer those values to other, like all those offshore facilities. And in the onshore space, like some of those Shell facilities, in Nigerian facilities, so a lot of the producers, IOC is produced to a pipeline that goes to, some of them sell to NLNG and all that. So a number of those things could be there. And I believe most of us on the call, is a public knowledge about NLNG of taking a large volume of the gas that is being produced in Nigeria. So, and we know, some of us know the parties and the NLNG and all that. That's not the focus of discussion today. What we're just describing basically is an agreement becomes effective when a certain level of conditions are fulfilled. Effective date actually speaks to when your rights and obligations become legally operational, when it becomes enforceable, when you expect him to give you gas. But you must have put in the agreement is when your pipeline is ready. That's when I'm ready to supply. Is when I'm done with the pipeline. Though sometimes they can put the timeline that you need to get your pipeline in place within so number of months, or else we terminate the agreement. Termination means I'm leaving the agreement. I'm no longer doing it again. I'm walking away. So take or pay. Take or pay majorly, as mentioned earlier, is to protect the supplier. Take or pay speaks to the fact that we have an agreement. I'm going to supply you like 80 SCOF per day. So if I'm supposed to supply, as long as I'm able to supply you that 80 SCOF per day, even if you are not ready to take it, you will still pay me a certain amount of money. And often this take or pay, there is a percentage of the daily contract quantity that is a percentage of fee that you have to pay me. Either you take my gas as long as I made the gas available at the delivery point and you didn't take it. This is to protect the investment of the upstream guy because he has invested money and you have agreed that you're going to take that gas from him. And please note, this is after the effective date. This is after the agreement has become operational. So this is to protect the value invested by the upstream person. And price adjustment, I've mentioned, as we have discussed before, we have seen a number of times that a lot of changes could happen in the market. So even if we agree at a particular rate, I'm going to buy from you, like now, price of everything, both oil and gas, have gone up. So if we already are, let's say we agree on $1 before this uptick happen, I mean this increase in price, what happens to me? Is it that $1 I will still be getting now that the cost, I mean the average price of gas has gone up a little, particularly if you are selling to an offshore market, not domestic market. If you're exporting, we know the market in Nigeria is highly regulated, and we know the three sectors. We have the power sector, we have the gas-based industry, and we have and also the commercial. But so even at that, you still need to have that adjustment. What happens when there's an increase in price? And we remember what happened during COVID when price of everything went low and a lot of things that happened. And there are taxes that are applicable to gas. We have SITA in Nigeria. That's the corporate income tax that needs to be paid. So there's royalty payment too. And interestingly, in PIA, there's a division when you are using the gas, when the gas is being used in Nigeria, the royalty payment, that's the money you pay to government when you produce gas in Nigeria. So the royalty payment you make when the gas is being used in Nigeria domestically, I think is 2.5. And when you export it, is 5%, 2.5% and 5% for export, 2.5. This is just to encourage domestic use of gas and production for domestic market. So we have the force majeure. These are things that are beyond your control. So when it happens, the contract is more like suspended in a way, because if I can't produce, I mean, if you can't take it and it's not your fault, that is beyond your fault, so you have to declare force majeure. So during this period, some obligations are kind of suspended. So you don't pay any penalty for not meeting some obligations. So that's why it needs to be in place and this could be as a result of weather. We have seen tornadoes in some countries. We have seen COVID too, that influence a number of things around the world generally. And confidentiality is there too, because you exchange during the deal, you are in an agreement. By the time you are doing business with someone, you share a lot of your secrets with them. So you want to be ensured that your secrets are preserved, that the person is not using it, is not going to use it against you or divulge your business secret to other people. And there is dispute resolution, because at some point there might be misunderstanding between parties and you need to find a way to really settle it. I think I'm running against time. So take or pay, as I mentioned, I think I've described it, but this kind of gives this slide kind of give a pictorial arrangement to it. So ordinarily, gas flow from seller to buyer. So even if for whatever reason the buyer is not taking it, capital still has to go to the seller because his investment has to be preserved. So this is take or pay mechanism. And there's a mirror of it too, though we didn't capture it in this agreement, in this discussion. There's a deliver or pay mechanism too on the other side of the buyer, because the buyer too has to be protected. So on the deliver or pay means that some of these buyers are not the one actually using some of these things. So they might still have some other off-takers downstream. Probably they are buying to sell, maybe to a company or to another industry or to other off-takers. So they too, they might have signed other agreements with the off-takers from them. So if you are not giving them the gas, maybe for whatever reason, and it's not a force majeure is already known that it's beyond your control. But if it's due to things that are within your control and within a particular period of time, you are not able to satisfy them, you are responsible to pay them some damages or some costs, which comes with protecting the buyers too. So it's not only one-sided, it's both-sided. So flow dynamics. So, in every business, you need to determine what you are expecting in an agreement. So you want to be like, what are the specifications of the gas that you're sending to me? Because it influences the kind of pipeline. I was in in one of those discussions sometimes ago, and we understand from discussions that a particular gas that is being produced from a particular field has some level of some corrosive elements in the gas. So even if you emplace a pipeline without taking note of that, the pipeline will go bad very fast because the elements in that gas will easily corrode, cause the pipeline to corrode. So for an off-taker, the person needs to understand what's the gas specification they are sending to me, particularly when you're in a depletion contract, because you are locked in with that person. So you want to be sure what is the type of gas value. I mean the specification of the gas that you have, the impurity or the non-pleasant element that you have in that gas, so that the end user will be able to prepare or determine how they're going to be able to offtake it safely and effectively. And maybe for a supply contract that you have options, you might just be like, these are the kind of quality I'm expecting. The calorific value, that's the energy value, because eventually it's energy that we're selling. It's not just guys, the energy that we're able to derive from it, the pressure and the temperature, because this is very important, because if the pressure is too high, more than what the other off-taker can take, it can spoil, it can destroy the off-taker's facility and all that. So all these things have to be spelled out so that the off-taker will be able to understand how they are going to be able to deal with it. And the measurement, there's a point they call the metering station. It's business and it's money. So you need to be sure of what you are getting. So there's a metering station which both parties have access to, both the off-taker and the seller, so that you can have a look at it that, okay, see what I'm getting and see how this is being measured. And this metering station is being checked regularly to be sure that the accuracy of the metering station is ensured, to avoid any party playing game on the other person. And eventually the custody transfer takes place, where the agreed delivery point. If you remember, we mentioned that there's a delivery point. The point that is agreed by both parties, where I will deliver the value to you and you take it off from there. And then pricing is very important. So there are different kinds of pricing mechanism that is obtainable. There's a fixed price arrangement. Initially, that was where a lot of the GSAs were, where there's already a predetermined price, constant all through the term of the agreement. But that's not fair, because a lot of things have changed. Let's say somebody signed an agreement. Oh, I forgot to mention that there are long-term agreements and there are short-term. So the long-term agreement, majorly particularly all those depletion agreement, since you are locked in with the person for years, so long-term agreement can even last as long as 20 years. And there are other short-term agreement that we call some can be described as spots. So some of them, it could be a month, it could be daily, it could be for less than a year or thereabout. So those kind of agreements, they are more like the market value is how it's being sold. But for a long-term agreement, so there's tendency for me to be like, let's say we negotiated an agreement in 2000, and this 2025, let's say 2010, and the price of gas generally around that time, maybe it's $1 per mm², and you negotiated that I'm only getting $1. But let's see what happens today. Let's say even now the regulated market in Nigeria currently, the minimum, okay, let me say the minimum for power is even above two, I think $2.13 per thousand SCOF. So you now be like, so that person is at a loss if he locked it down. So a lot of people, what they are doing currently is either they are doing index-based pricing, which is indexed to a particular hub. There are different hubs where gas are being traded. We have the popular one is called Henry Hub, and we have the title transfer facility somewhere in Netherlands and all that. So the pricing for fixed price is when at the beginning we already locked it in. This is the amount I'm paying, and that's going to remain all through the term. But a lot of businesses are moving away from that. There's also the cost plus pricing, where the entire cost of producing it is being put together and a margin is being added on top. Maybe not many people are involved in this, but index-based pricing, this one is very common, and particularly the market-based pricing, where you link it directly with the prevailing market condition, because you want to be able to cream the value that is happening in the market. And some agreements that have been privileged to maybe witness, there's something they call netback pricing, so that any value you get from the seller, the final buyer that pays the money, we share it in a particular percentage. So when there is there's an increase, we enjoy it together. And when there's a decrease, we are all in the business together, not in a situation where only one person just cream off all the benefits when it happens, particularly when the market condition is favorable, particularly like now, where value seems to be a lot of value coming to the sellers. So briefly, we just take a look at payment mechanisms. In every business, it's all about they will say it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the money. So there has to be a way of arranging payment mechanisms. I think in some agreements that I've seen before that I've been privileged to see, it's about 60 days from the day of the invoicing to the day of payment. So there are a lot of checks that needs to be done within that period. For some, it could be lower. For some, it could be 30 days after the invoicing has come. Often it's done monthly. So when you supply gas, particularly the ones in maybe a depletion arrangement, is done monthly. So, and when I'm speaking majorly to the depletion arrangement where it's a long term. But I don't think a short term allows you long period of payment like that, because it's spot market. You see it, you point it, and you're buying it. So you shouldn't take eternity for you to do your reconciliation that they do in a long-term arrangement that takes time, often maybe around 60 days before payment is made. But you and that person, you are in for a long haul. Unlike spot market that you can just decide to just do a quick one with someone and it's just for a period of time. So we have the invoicing generation. That's when the payment request is being sent to the buyer. This is the amount I gave you. So this amount. So there's a grace period when you're supposed to pay and where penalty applies. So sometimes when you delay in payment, there's a penalty that comes with it. You pay with interest. And sometimes you might want to dispute that the volume you gave me is not the volume that is on the record. So there's a provision for that. And there's a provision also for late payment too, that you didn't pay me as at the time that you're supposed to pay me. And even for some of these agreements, there's what we call payment guarantees. That you have a letter of credit or performance bond that if the guy refused to pay, you draw down on that payment guarantee. But often for relationship that lasts for a longer period, credibility matters. So some of them you don't necessarily need to put, maybe at the beginning when the relationship is still emerging, you might need to place a payment guarantee to ensure that you get your value. If the person doesn't pay, you draw down the bank guarantee or any letter of credit that the person has placed before now. So, okay, this is one I was speaking to, long contracts and short contract. So for long contract, is immediate purchase at current market price. But for a longer time contract, you are with the person for over the year. So this allows, the long contract allow for stability, but spot contract, you cream the value at the at the market price. But the challenge for Nigeria, that the market has not yet evolved to the high level. So what we have currently majorly is long contract, at least minimum of about maybe 10 years or 20 years. You even see some 20 years agreement that they have, because when you are securing your financing, you need to have to go and scale financing from organizing body, maybe big banks and all that. They want to see the entire life of the full life cycle of the production, and they want to see where you're selling it. So that's why a GSA is even important in securing some financing for some of gas agreements. So termination and survival, though every relationship you start, not all of them ends the same way you want it to end. So sometimes conditions, things could change along the line, and there might be reasons for termination. So, but even at termination is when you say, this relationship we've developed is not working, so we are moving away, even despite the fact, but this one, even when you have a long-term agreement, if it's not working, there is provision for you to exit, because it's not by force to be in a relationship. As it is in normal relationship, it's also in business transactions too. So this provides conditions for you to exit. However, there are certain obligations that survives. If you are still owing the person, maybe you took some delivery or you offtake some gas, you have not paid. Confidentiality, the information shared with you should not be disclosed, indemnification, and some other things that need to be protected. So lastly, I think this is more like up to the end of the slide. This is more like, what are the laws governing? Because everything has to be supported by the law. That's where we talk about the legal consideration. So in Nigeria, the gas agreements in Nigeria have been governed by the laws or Federal Republic, the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and also the PI. We know the PI is the law for the industry, and you have the notices where you exchange a communication with the other party, the assignment. This allows you the right to transfer your duties to be transferred without breaking the agreement, but these two are some conditions attached to it, and there's what they call the indemnification. And lastly, there has to be risk allocation, because it's not just one person that should take the risk. So this is more like showing you a picture that both sides have a way of protecting themselves, because the agreement has to be a win-win, not a win-lose kind of arrangement. For the seller, I have take or pay clause, so I'm sure of money coming into me. And for the other supplier too, I have a supply contract, because you need to get the gas to me so I can make money. There are cases, so the gas specification too has to be well in place, because you can't just give me any volume of gas that will spoil or will not be useful for my final user or final off-taker. So this is more like an overview of the entire benefit of a GSA. Supply assurances, the supplier is sure that, okay, I'm getting my gas out, and the off-taker too is assured that I can off-take some volume and take it to the market. There's price stability and there's long-term planning. You know, every business will have a forward outlook. You don't want to be in a business that you're not sure of what happened tomorrow. So that's why people sign contract. And there's risk management to and also investment incentives, because when you can see the end-to-end, it allows the upstream guy to go and borrow money, and the investor too can easily put his money, because he can see how the value is being translated from upstream to the end user that takes it. So a well-prepared GSA is a bedrock upon which national energy security and commercial prosperity are built. And as discussed in the industry, we're in the gas, we're in the decade of gas. So a lot of agreements are still going to come up. And we know that we have huge gas resource in Nigeria. We have over 200 trillion cubic feet of gas in our reserve. I mean, in reserve of over 200 TCF. So we're in a good place. It's just for us to get the value out, produce them, and use it to develop our country. So that will just be the highlight of the discussions today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajayi. Thank you for this interesting exposition. Thank you one more time. I think Doctor has done justice to this interesting topic today. I see a few questions in the chat box. Please, if you have any question, quickly drop it in the chat box, and I'll soon be reading out those questions while I take on some of the conversation around. So in what Doctor has just taken us through, understanding gas sales agreement, the key commercial, legal, and fiscal consideration, we could see him interestingly starting from the gas hub, telling us about the pricing mechanism, the delivery terms, payment structure, the risk allocation, even down to defining the structural architecture that is needed, down to this last slide we are seeing now, the stabilized structure, the ultimate benefits of a GSA. Him also anchoring the fact that this is the bedrock that we need for Nigeria to be an energy powerhouse. So without much ado, please, if there are questions, I can see some hands raised already in the meeting room. I do not know if there are, okay. Okay, from the hand that's raised in the meeting room, please, we have just about 10 or 11 minutes for this section, so we're going to be brief about that. Quickly, okay, 3 hands. Can I please we drop these questions in the chat room, so I just see them from the chat room, so it will be easier. Okay, Dr. Malami, please quickly come in with your questions before I move on to the chat room. Doctor, please, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Joe. Please confirm you can hear me.
Loud and clear, sir.
Thank you very much. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Benjamin, Dr. Benjamin, for this wonderful presentation.
And I just have a few questions. The first one being around LNG. You slightly touched about LNG business. I was just wondering whether LNG business is going to be as as lucrative as possible, especially looking at the domestic market. So we know LNG is usually for long-term contract and is usually paid by in dollars. But in the domestic space, we have transactions that are usually back in naira, and also they usually tend to be a very short contract, maybe 10, 15 years. And again, with the intermittency and other issues around the supply logistics, whether LNG is a good business for domestic gas supply to Nigeria, especially if you want to do a business, that will benefit from cheap gas price. Will you advise someone to go into LNG contract, domestic LNG contract? Thank you.
Should I take this or allow the other questions to come in?
It will be good if you are jotting, if you are taking note of the question, you don't miss it. But quickly take Dr. Malami's own. The others, we can just lump them together, please.
Okay, maybe just a quick one. So for LNG, the technology generally, I would say it might not be as one is highly capital intensive. I mean, there requires a lot of capital to really be able to do LNG in Nigeria, because even if you take it from the let's say, I don't know which side you want to play. Do you want to play and placing an LNG plant, which is huge capital, and to even use it locally, you need there's a name they call it, where you in an LNG, you reduce the volume, you compress it under a very low temperature, I think up to like minus 162 degrees C. So where it's being compressed under huge pressure, when a large volume is being compressed. So you need to even reconvert it back to gas before it can be used. So developing that kind of facility is capital intensive. So often what we see in the countries like Europe and maybe Japan and the rest, because over there they don't have the gas resource, so they can afford to build that kind of facility to convert the gas from the liquefied form back to gaseous form before they can use it. There's a name they call that facility, escapes me now. So, but in Nigeria, the cheapest one that we can easily launch on is if we have the required pipeline. And we have seen some development, we have seen AKK and some other pipelines coming in. So that would have been the cheapest option for us to really commercialize gas in Nigeria. But some of those structures are not yet in place. We don't have the level of infrastructure that are available currently. So that's where the concerns are, and that's where this body was set up, this Midstream by PIA, Midstream Infrastructure Fund, the Infrastructure Development Fund, so that some funding can go into midstream infrastructure, so where people can easily tee off from the pipelines, maybe connect to their own gas facility, and then use it to power systems and do all other businesses. But starting a fresh LNG, it's capitally intensive, hugely capitally intensive. And we have not even seen anyone since NLNG that we have. There has been some discussions around floating NLNG, but in Nigeria currently, some of them are still at discussion stage. None of them has really come to reality yet. We've heard of UTM and all that in the news, but some of them are still in the works, not yet emplaced. So it's hugely intensive. With respect to capital. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Malami. I know you know how to hold Dr. Ajayi.
Yes, Dr. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well done.
Okay. Okay, so a quick one, please. I'm going to quickly run to the chat room now to read out the questions. Dr. Ben, you can just take note of the questions as I read them out there. You just take them all at once. Then I'll come back to give audience to Ibrahim, Manu, and Kawi Idris Ida to ask their question. So a quick one, the first question, sorry guys, we are running out of time, just have about 5 minutes for this section. Imo Ikeruke asks, he said, my first question comes from your bio, that's Dr. Ajayi's bio. How are you able to pivot from engineering, that is engineering in both mechanical and petroleum, to a PhD in energy economics? So is the transition how you move from that core technical to energy economics or she wants you to speak to. Then he also asked, say, regarding the depletion contract, sir, what happens when probably you produce more than the off-taker can buy? For example, maybe after your well intervention, your production from the dedicated reservoir exceeds what you have been supplying to the dedicated off-taker. What happens? That is the question. Then Muhammad Masood is asking you, is the metering station different from the delivering point? Is the metering station different from the delivering point? Then another question from Mercy Folayo says, do all GSAs have the take or pay? Let me not be tempted to wanting to make comments about this. So to have an SME on board. So Mercy is asking, do all GSAs have the take or pay clause? Then she also asks, if Mercy is a lady, also, who operates the metering station, ensuring independence? Is it a third party? Okay, so Dennis Okereke is trying to clarify. He said, please, in purchasing gas, are purchase orders issued along the line? Are purchase orders, PO, issued along the line? I think basically those are the questions on board. I can see an LNG regasification. Oh, okay. PO, I was just trying to help you with what you missed out earlier on, that the component is the regasification plant when LNG wants administration. So please, if you don't mind, Doctor, please kindly help us give some just in-depth and precise, concise answers to this question, so we can go back to Ibrahim and Kao.
Okay, sir.
Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the team, the people that provided the answer, regasification facility. So for the question around if purchase orders comes with it, for a depletion contract, which the presentation was actually focused on, you already have it in the agreement, the volumes you are taking. So you already have the agreement, the daily contract volume or daily contract quantity. So when you are issuing your invoice, so this is more like your purchase order is more like the invoice. So every month as you are issuing it, it's more like what you call your, in a way, this is the amount of money, this is the amount of value I give to you. But I would think for all those ones that maybe spot market, that you don't have a long-term arrangement with the person. Yes, you need to tell them, this is the quantity of gas I'm buying from you, and this is the rate at which I want to, this is the volume I'm buying, and they will have to agree on a particular amount. So for spot, yes, purchase order will have to come because you need to know the value they are coming in with ordinarily. But an existing one that you already have a GSA, some of those things are already captured in the agreement of the volume you are taking. And then what you now do is invoice. See, last month, see how much I gave you, and this is the amount of money that is due to me that you need to pay. So basically, that's the way it works. And for metering station, to ensure independence, who operates? Often is the supplier that operates. However, in agreements, you make provision for even the buyer to be able to come. Sometimes some buyers might even have, in your agreement, you might say you want to have your buyer there. A representative of the buyer at the station, maybe at intervals to be taking their own reading. This to corroborate, to be sure that the value you are getting, that you are not being cheated, that the meter is not being tampered with. And don't forget that even the regulator too often do certification of the meter. So ordinarily, there should be some level of transparency, but also in agreements, there is provision for a representative of the buyer to have access to that facility, maybe once in a week or twice in a week, to take reading of the volume that is being offtake so that nobody is giving the other person wrong value or something or cheating the other party. And do all GSAs have take or pay? Yes, they should have, except the seller is not really serious about the business, because if there's no take or pay, there are days that the guy will just be like, for whatever reason, I'm not taking your gas today, and you're not getting any value. So all GSAs, all well-written GSAs should have take or pay. So that's why we just say on that. Is the delivery metering point different from delivery point? It might not necessarily be different, because sometimes for transparency, the metering point, but often the metering point should be upstream of the delivery point. That's what is important, because you need to measure it from your hand before it gets to the other hand. But there are certain situations where even the metering point is at the buyer's end. There are cases like that the metering point is even the buyer that is measuring it, that the supplier is not measuring it. I've seen cases like that. That is the buyer that is doing the measurement, not the. And in some cases too, there are cases whereby you have metering station upstream of the delivery point, and downstream of the delivery point, you have your own measurement point, just to be able to be like, what you are giving me, I want to be sure you're giving me enough value. You are not giving me, you are not playing me. You are giving me as much value as I requested for, and you are not giving me wrong numbers. Okay, you say with respect to depletion contract. Yes, for a depletion contract, that's where a lot of studies needs to be done before you arrive at the volume that you're going to send to your buyer, because the person will have designed their capacity with respect to the volume that is coming from that field. But don't forget that even despite the fact that the person will have designed their facility for that volume, often there is what they call debottlenecking, and there is even some facility operates a little higher than their design capacity for a period of time that will still not spoil or will not cause any destruction of the facility, that they can still be able to operate a little higher than what the design capacity is. And even in design, you don't design exactly for the volume that you're expecting, because there are cases like this question that Mr. Imo has mentioned, that there might be cases you might have some uptick in production. So you need you design some range or some gaps to allow for cases whereby you might have some uptick in production, and that will be taken care of. But in a situation whereby the volume is much higher than what the other off-taker can take, what you need to do in your production is to bin down, because if the other person can the gas, and which currently comes with some penalties. So it's either you reduce your production level, or the off-taker can probably take more gas, maybe due to their capacity, or they have other off-takers downstream that they can share with or something. But in a situation whereby they are locked in, they can't take it based on limited capacity, such a situation, you have to bin down, reduce your production. The shock, it can be show. There is a way to regulate production that you might not be able to produce as much as you could as a reserve can. So that has to be managed ordinarily. Okay, the other question, how did you navigate? Okay, I did my first degree in mechanical engineering and then petroleum. So I work in the oil and gas industry. So and after some time, I've done technical for like 8 years before I now transited to strategy and commercial role. So it kind of helped me to do that. So it's even advised that at some point, when you do some technical role, at some point you transit to the commercial role, because it's all about the numbers, and the decisions are made by the people that do the numbers. They want to see the bottom line. They want to see where the value is before you even get to if they don't approve the project, the technical people won't have any project to do or something. So it's often good to have a taste of technical and also to have a commercial. So that's how I actually transited. Basically, I believe I've answered some of all the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
I don't
sir.
know, maybe peradventure, the hand that is raised up, whether some of this question has been answered, because I've actually eaten into Prof's time for his closing remarks. Okay, I'm seeing everybody's dropping the hand, so I don't have any more hands raised up. Okay, without much ado, I think we are calling it a wrap. I can see our erudite experts and profs on call. So I think at this point, I want over to Akpan to call on this prof to give us our closing about the program chair and before we go to the networking. Thank you very much. Over to you, Akpan.
Wow, thank you so much, moderator. You agree with me? The moderator did an amazing job taking time to manage the entire event. Please, can we give our moderator just some virtual applause? Thank you so much, moderator. And of course, to our speaker, Dr. Ajayi, thank you so much for making the session non-technical, because even someone that does not have background in the energy industry would definitely understand everything you said. Thank you so much, Dr. Benjamin Ajayi. Please, can we give him some virtual applause? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I would like to make you understand that this is the opportunity to be a member of SPE Abuja. Please join SPE Abuja. The cost to join is 77,500 naira, and of course, you can renew membership at 62,500 naira only. Of course, our membership chair is on the call. Engineer Ogene Rome Ogolo. You can see his number on the screen. Do a favor, send a message to him, and he will guide you on joining. For those that want to renew membership, please take a screenshot of account details so that you can renew your membership. Of course, we are live on all social media platforms. This is our platforms: SPE Abuja on Instagram, SPE Abuja 19 on LinkedIn. All of our future event is always posted on social media. So please do us a favor, follow, engage, like, comment, reshare our posts. We will be pleased to have you do them. Then all our events are always live streamed on YouTube. Please visit SPE Abuja section 19 on YouTube. You'll see this event and past sections you had missed. Of course, it's always an amazing opportunity to refresh your memory on past event. We have our biggest flagship event, the biggest. You might want to do a drum rolls for NICE 2026 live at Eco Hotels on Suite from the 3rd to the 5th of August 2026. Please find time to register. The early bird registration is on and will end on the last day of June. So please make sure you take part of this opportunity. And of course, we have our short courses that hold before NICE. 1st to 2nd of June, we have the short courses, 14 courses that would blow your mind. Of course, we have rates for early bird, rates for standard, and rates for on-site. Do well to visit the website, spenice.org, and register on time. Ladies and gentlemen, wrap up the events today. We have closing remarks by our program's chair, Professor Kafayat Adeyemi. However, she would be represented by the Assistant Programs Chairman, Dr. Malami Mohammed. Over to you, Dr. Malami, for the closing remarks, sir.
Okay, good evening once again. Apan, thank you very much. I think my job is easy this evening. It's just to say thank you to Dr. Ajayi. I also thank our able moderator. I was even wondering maybe next time we'll invite the moderator to also come and give his own perspective on so many things. I know he's fully loaded. Thank you very much, moderator. And of course, to the entire members of SPE Abuja section and every participant of this program, we really appreciate the time for keeping up to this moment. We really thank you and appreciate you. And we look forward to having you in our next monthly meeting. Thank you. Apam, over to you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all those on the call. We had Professor Chidibe on the call. I guess he's dropped out. Thank you so much, Professor Chidi, for joining us on the call. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please can you turn on your video cameras? Let's have a quick screenshot of your faces for the future where we share on our social media platform. Please turn on video cameras, please. Please turn on your video cameras. So when I say SPE Abuja, you just respond with culture of excellence, with your thumbs up, and of course your 32 dentition, and we are done for today. When I say SPE Abuja, you respond with culture of excellence and your thumbs up, and then we just smile and say bye-bye for today. Are you ready? So please, we want you to kindly